Welcome to Beyond the Backlog. I'm Nick.
And I'm Zack.
And today we're going a little bit back in time. We're going to talk about the Nintendo Switch launch day. Kind of the backtrack into some of the reveals, some of the announcements, and then release date, and then kind of some thoughts a couple weeks afterwards.
Yeah, so I think we're going to start pretty much back where it all began, back when it was still known as the Nintendo NX.
Yeah.
And they somewhat officially announced it. When was that? In October of 2016?
Yeah, October 2016, they had a reveal trailer. And I thought the reveal trailer did a great job of just showcasing everything you needed to know about it. It wasn't drawn out. They weren't talking over anything. It was just a killer tune. And then just giving you the exact sense of, oh, this is what the Switch does. Flipping between handheld and console.
And this was the one where I specifically remember as soon as he picks up his Switch and takes it with him, and then they show clips of Zelda running on it.
Yeah.
They show Skyrim running while he's like on a plane or something.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what else was shown in that particular trailer, though.
So they had people playing basketball, shooting hoops, and then they sat down at opposite ends of the park bench playing some NBA 2K.
And some Mario Kart.
Yep. Mario Kart was in the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Then you had a woman playing new Mario game that was unannounced at the time, which wound up being Odyssey, and then being invited over to a rooftop party, and then bringing games for all of her friends and acquaintances to try, and then going deep into like a Splatoon battle between two esports teams.
Mm-hmm.
And then they cut to the end. It's the Nintendo Switch, and it's coming March 2017.
With that signature little click sound that they used for everything. And did we find anything else prior to that January Direct where they really did their first, like, this is an hour of Switch content?
I don't believe so.
So jumping into that January Direct then, because that's when all eyes were already on the Switch, and we already knew it was coming out in March. And this was like a less than 2 months prior. We're going to kind of tell you what's coming for the rest of 2017. And in that direct, they announced a lot of the launch lineup. So they announced 1-2 Switch. They announced ARMS. We had a full trailer for Breath of the Wild, even though it had already been a key feature of like E3 2 years ago. And even trailers for things that didn't come out until almost 5 years down the line, like Bayonetta 3 and No More Heroes 3, which me as a Nintendo fan above all else, I was super excited for those. And I came out of this direct, and Splatoon 2, so I came out of this direct thinking, like, wow, like the Switch has a lot of momentum going for it. I hope they don't kind of fumble their way through like they did with the Wii U. And I was actually genuinely excited for a lot of the games that were coming up that year and beyond.
Yeah, because we were very much, I don't want to say hurt, not the best word, but like the Wii U was unfulfilled promises in many senses, especially near the end of its cycle, where it was just kind of like the dark days of Nintendo. You speak of them maybe just giving up consoles and just being a third party to like a Sony or a Microsoft. I always thought that was kind of a silly take that people were doing just because, it's Nintendo, right? But I'm sure Sega people would say the same thing about Sega.
But there was actually like a lot of agreement about this idea that Nintendo didn't have what it takes to launch and sustain a new console for many years.
Yeah. They're like, the games are good, but...
Like, it was clear that they didn't have a lot of momentum on Wii U and kind of pulled out when they realized they weren't going to be making the money that they wanted to. And they still had the 3DS going strong as a backup plan.
Yes. Yeah, I do think, like, the Wii U to me was Smash Bros. And Mario Kart. That was what it was. I would play with some friends and do all of that, but it wasn't really a single-player experience for me. By that time, I was well into like PC gaming, PS4 gaming. So trying to step back and playing like worse versions of games, right? Like there wasn't a Zelda that came out on it other than re-releases. The Mario parties on it weren't great. Mario Kart was great, but the Mario games, that was when you were getting into your throes of too many new Super Mario Bros. Titles.
Well, it was the new Super Mario Bros. U and Luigi U.
Yeah.
Definitely were the nail in the coffin for that series as every year or two sort of release. But Super Mario 3D World, anyway, fantastic. But these are also games that all ended up making their way onto the Switch, of all places.
Yeah, I thought it was a great idea for them eventually in the Switch to do a bunch of re-releases that of good, solid games. Just now you actually get a community of them.
And I think the first big port of sorts that came over was Mario Kart, and that came in April of 2017. So when we're talking about the launch lineup and window, I usually think of March right up until Mario Kart. So what did we have actually come out in that span?
Yeah. So day of release, you had, I believe, 5 physical games, and then you had 5 quote unquote digital games day of. So you had Breath of the Wild, great game. You knew it was coming. That was your big system seller. Super Bomberman R, Skylanders Imaginators, 1-2 Switch, Just Dance 2017. Digital, you have I Am Setsuna, Snipper Clips, 2 variations of Shovel Knight, Treasure Trove and Spectre of Torment, and then Fast RMX.
All right. So on the actual day that the Switch released, like, did you pick yours up first thing in the morning?
Yes. So I had, fun story always attached to mine. I pre-ordered Breath of the Wild at GameStop, and I pre-ordered the Switch at Best Buy. The night before, I got an email from Best Buy. Oh, we can't fulfill your pre-order. So, whoops, no Switch for you.
But you got the game at least.
Yeah, but I got the call from GameStop. They were like, hey, we're going to open up early. You have a pre-order, so you can come in at like 8 o'clock and pick up your pre-orders. I got there, maybe like 8:10. I was like the 10th person in line, and they had 3 extra Switches for like non-pre-order people.
Yep.
And I got the last one.
Wow.
So then I just played Zelda all day. But I just did Zelda plus the Switch. And I believe I bought a Pro Controller. That was my like day one lineup, and that kept me going for pretty well ever.
I mean, Breath of the Wild was plenty. Did you end up picking up any of the other physical launch titles?
No. So of the launch titles, the only ones that I've played are Shovel Knight years later, Snipper Clips I played a little bit of, and then Breath of the Wild.
Oh, okay.
And then we did Super Bomberman R for a little bit.
Yeah, so I decided after kind of laying low a bit during the Wii U era that Switch is where I was going to kind of go hardcore collecting again. And being a huge Nintendo fanboy, I don't know, I just saw something in the Switch where I'm like, that's the one. So the day that it came out, here's what I purchased. You ready for this? So I got the Switch system. I got Breath of the Wild. I bought a physical edition of Snipper Clips. I bought Super Bomberman R. And then on top of that, I got a Pro Controller. I got an extra set of Joy-Cons, plus the little like rechargeable Joy-Con holding controller.
Yep.
That they were pushing for like $40. Waste of money. Love it. And then I also got a carrying case. I got an extra charger for charging, because I was like, I'm going to keep it plugged in, docked, and then also have another charger for just out and around the house. And then I also got all of the Breath of the Wild amiibo that came out that day.
Oh, I think I did get a couple of the amiibo.
Oh, like that Guardian one? I think they had all except for like one. There was like a Ganondorf or something that was delayed, or I can't even remember. But one of the amiibo didn't come out that day and was like a week later. But either way, I spent about $1,000 that day, and I'd say it was time well spent, because the next 2 weeks, 5+ hours a day, I was playing Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
But I did spend a little bit of time testing out Fast RMX, which I bought online. I tested out Snipper Clips, and I did end up picking up 1-2 Switch a few days later as well. Tested out a little bit of Super Bomberman R, and then I consider it a launch title because it was the first thing I bought on the eShop, which is Blaster Master Zero. Technically came out a week later, but in the first 2 weeks of owning this system, I had played and beat like all 6 of these games. And even at the time, I remember telling myself, I'm going to stay on top of my backlog for this system. Ask me how that went.
Yeah, I'm going to guess not well.
Not well. Considering this week alone, I've bought more hours of like Switch content than I could possibly finish.
Yeah, that's how we do. But what would you say are the overall thoughts of the launch titles?
Yeah, so I think my overall thoughts, by the time I had finished Breath of the Wild is when I first sat down and kind of reflected on what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
So here's just a little sampling of my notes. So first of all, handy little system, does what it says it's going to do and does it well. I like that for being a handheld console, like it doesn't feel like it's compromising very much. Depends on the game you're playing, though, sometimes.
Yeah.
I really liked playing Zelda in handheld mode, and I rarely actually like sat down and like set it up to play in docked mode. And part of that is because I never had any Joy-Con drift. But I did notice it happen a few times while playing Zelda, but not really in anything else. I just kind of elected to go pro controller from there on out.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think a lot of the depth of this launch lineup came from indies and ports.
I would say it's Breath of the Wild, which I don't know if you would count it as a new one or a port. They came out the same day. Shovel Knight. Snipper Clips is like a really solid game, but I felt like some of the other main Nintendo ones, especially the physical ones, really didn't do what I think they set out to do.
Well, and that's where you could argue, like, they had a pretty solid lineup with ARMS coming out afterwards, and
yes.
A few other things here and there, but I would say that it wasn't until we got Odyssey a few months in, like it was like October of that year.
Yes. Yeah, October, I think it came out.
So from March until October, I felt like I was just getting the hang of this thing. And then Odyssey came out and I'm like, now we're in it. Now this just feels like the home console.
Yeah. And then they just kind of kept it going. Right. Every couple of months, you had another banger game released. They were like, okay, cool. This is like your good first party Nintendo game.
And what were your overall thoughts and feelings about this launch lineup and window?
Breath of the Wild, good.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, end the episode there.
Done. Breath of the Wild, I would say, is one of those games that got me back into gaming. Right? Because at the time you grow up, you get a little bit more into different types of games, and you kind of lose that sense of wonder and exploration. And Breath of the Wild really brought me back into that.
Oh, yeah. It's like the perfect game for a new console, even if it was cross-generation.
Yeah. Yeah, I still remember the first time seeing the zoomed out image where it spins around and you see the world and you're like, I can go all over there. The rest of the games, like Snipper Clips is a lot of fun. Shovel Knight's a great game. I've never played or really seen much of Fast RMX or I Am Setsuna.
Well, Fast RMX, it's literally like F-Zero, but with a color-changing mechanic.
Okay.
So it's like you press a button and you swap between like yellow and blue, and then allows you to hit boost pads of that color.
Oh, interesting.
So
that's kind of fun.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a sequel to a game just called Fast.
Okay.
I Am Setsuna, I don't know much about though.
No, it's a RPG.
That's all
I know.
Yeah.
But I felt like they just missed on 1-2 Switch. It felt like it needed to be a pack-in, like a Wii Sports. Because I think they tried to do it as a Wii Sports / Nintendo Land kind of release thing where you have a couple of cool party games to kind of showcase the new tech.
I have a really weird, complicated history with 1-2 Switch, and it's because I like the idea, but every time I try and play it, I almost feel embarrassed that I own it. It's just like some of those little starting blurbs that are like, here's how to play the game. And I'm like, this feels like a group of people just having fun making a little tech demo.
Exactly, yeah, rather than it being like a full-fledged thing. It kind of gives me like Wii Play vibes.
Yeah.
Right? Just Dance And Skylanders, I think, were trying to do the same thing, which was try to tap into a prior market. Because the Wii, for the longest time, you still had Just Dance, the new versions being released on Wii.
I mean, there was still Just Dance being released on Wii after the Wii U was discontinued.
Yeah, exactly. So if you had a certain type of gamer that was like really into the Just Dance or like the Dance Dance Revolutions growing up, then maybe they buy it for that. But to me, it wasn't a console seller. Same with Skylanders. Skylanders, from what I understand, I'm not really the clientele for it, but I believe it did well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to tell you if it did better on Nintendo systems or not.
Yeah.
If it had too much crossover with like Amiibo. Like that would be the reason I would never have touched it. Is I'm like, I already have all this money in Amiibo.
Yeah, I didn't want to do the same for all the Skylanders.
Yeah.
I had a younger cousin that was really into it, so I just immediately assumed that was kind of the clientele for it. Then you're like, okay, well, if I want to do the new Skylanders game, then I'm going to go out and I'm going to get the Switch. Either for my kid, for my younger brother, something like that. And I was just really disappointed in Super Bomberman R.
You were disappointed in it?
Yeah, so we would play an old freeware game that was called Bugs and Bombs, which is basically just a reskinned like Super Bomberman. And I was like, man, this will be great because then I can like, you know, bring my brother over, bring my cousins over, and we'll get back into playing it. And then the game was just fine.
I only played the main single player mode of it. And I remember beating it and then being like, that was only fine.
Yeah.
And then it's actually one of the few games I've sold because I'm like, I genuinely don't know if I'm ever going to play this again. But it's very rare that I have that moment where I'm like, I liked this game, but not enough to really have any need to keep it.
No. I just thought it would be like a really cool party kind of game. And I don't think it ever hit that.
No.
But I think that's the same with any of the other Bomberman-esque games that I try to pick up over the years. Is just maybe I just like the games more than a lot of other people do. But, yeah, what would you say? Favorite console?
I mean, to say when I picked up the Switch that I thought we'd be here now, like 150 million units sold and software continuing to pile on. Now we're entering almost like 8 full years where it's going to be constant releases. It's impressive. It's probably easily been my favorite console to live through and be a part of the hype as it was happening. I wish I was a part of that for like the Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, because I think those would have been my favorite consoles if so.
Yeah.
But as it stands, this has been my favorite console to use and play, and there's so many things you can do on it, like between eShop and the Switch Online service. Like, this could be your only console and you could be satisfied.
Yeah. I think the only critiques are just your classic ones. I want more things on the Switch Online. I want more classic games. I think Nintendo did a really good job combining both of their markets.
Yeah.
Because now you have pretty well all of the market share for handhelds, right? It's a Switch or it's mobile. And you eked out a nice little corner for yourself in the home console market.
Yeah, there's no use having 3 companies trying to do the same thing.
No, but I would argue people either have like your PlayStation 5s or your Xbox Series X's/S or PC. But then they also have a Switch. Right? So I think Nintendo really found that niche and went, yeah, we're just going to slide on in here.
Man, I really love the Switch. And I hope whatever comes next is even going to live up to a quarter of what we have now.
Now, do you think they do a Switch 2, which is like same kind of thing, just more souped up tech?
I do believe some of the rumors that are saying that what they have in development is essentially a new Switch, bigger, better screen, and as powerful as like a PS4 to PS4 Pro.
Okay.
So I think that's going to be enough. And I think that's what they're going to do and what they should do. Because if they go for a brand new idea and something totally different, then it's just another risk.
Yeah, they risked it going from Wii to Wii U and it didn't work. And then they said, let's take the good parts of the Wii U and put it into the Switch, and that worked. So I think because you found that niche, you should just keep on with it.
But I do believe we wanted to make a more full discussion on what we want to see from like a Switch 2. So maybe we'll save that for another time. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about in terms of the actual launch of the Switch itself?
I don't think so. I think it did what it set out to do. It came out at a really weird point in between cycles for the other main competitors, which I think puts them in a good position.
Yeah.
Because they could do an 8-year cycle, potentially a 9-year cycle.
Well, like as of right now, like as we're recording this, it's officially the longest Nintendo has ever gone between releases of home consoles.
Yeah.
Which is just weird to think about.
Yeah, because I think your other one would have been like the Wii.
Maybe
at 6 years.
Maybe.
But I think that pretty well wraps up what we had for Switch launch day. It was great.
Yeah, if you had anything else that came out around the launch time that you were playing when you first got your Switch, or you didn't pick it up until later, what did you play when you first got yours? Let us know.
And from here, we'll see you next time. What are we doing? Who knows? But take care and have a good day.
And thanks for listening.